Hello, everyone. With that, we are slowly going to wrap up our networking session. And thank you so much for coming and joining us for Unplugged. With Visionaries Club, it's always a very special time of the year and day for us because we have this unique opportunity to bring together some of the most exceptional founders and investors and friends in one place and listen to the stories of each other. And in the following session, actually, under the title Leading the Charge in Fintech and Business Planning, it's my pleasure to introduce you to some of our very own Visionaries portfolio founders who will share their stories and tell you about how they are transforming entire verticals in fintech, procurement, and compliance. And first of all, I'm excited to welcome our first founder on stage, BOGDAN from APRON. And a few thoughts on that. So we are actually, at Visionaries, very strong believers in the transformation happening around B2B payments. And specifically, if you think about small businesses who kind of form the backbone of our economy, they are the ones that are being weighed down by very cumbersome processes. And essentially, APRON radically changes the way those small businesses handle payments. And using the platform, customers can just pay and reconcile invoices within a matter of seconds. So handing over to BOGDAN to tell you more about what they are building.
Thanks, Martin. Is that the pointer?
Yeah, that's the pointer.
Okay. So I'm just going to click through to our slides. Great. Hi, everyone. I'm BOGDAN. I'm the founder of APRON. And I want you to meet Sam as well. Sam is also an entrepreneur, and she runs a hotel and a pub in Devon. Sam is also an APRON user. So what's interesting about Sam is that she logged in on Sunday and paid 300 bills in 15 minutes in APRON. And why this is cool? This is cool because this was her old kind of life before APRON. Typical bill payments process, manual, disintegrated. Before APRON, this would take her half a day every Sunday. Well, good news is we fixed it, and this is the volume we're going after in the UK alone. So that's APRON. Thank you. Give it a
Awesome. Thank you, BOGDAN. Next up on the stage is actually Fra from TRUELAYER, and I'll just give you the pointer. And on the note of payments, open banking as a thesis for us is something that is we really believe that it's fundamentally revolutionizing the entire financial landscape. And by allowing banks to contact the third parties with secured APIs, you just bring a lot of transparency and into the market and allow customers to fully have control over their finances. And we really believe that TRUELAYER is one of the key leaders charging that transformation. So Frank can tell you a little bit about that.
Hi everyone, thanks for inviting me here today. And I think Visionaries is putting together something really amazing today. So thanks so much. My name is Francesco. I'm the CEO and co-founder of TRUELAYER. We are a payments network built on top of a technology called open banking. So in a nutshell, we are trying to do the job of Visa and MasterCard, but based on entirely new rail. So to give you a little bit of a sense of scale, we process about $40 billion worth of transaction on an annualized base. We are responsible of about 35–40% of the entire volume of open banking, think like market share in the UK. And we serve thousands of developers, small companies, but also more than 350 enterprise companies. And some are there on screen. And also, talking about resilience, we are backed by an amazing group of investors. And I think in this climate, I have to say I'm extremely proud of the relationship and the kind of names that we managed to work with and the partnership we created along with Visionaries, of course. So we started I would say with a slightly different take. Initially, myself and Luca, my co-founder, we were in San Francisco. And we really liked this idea of banks building APIs, and there was a regulatory change happening in Europe. And so in 2016, we presented that that slides there to Connect Ventures, highlighting this idea of how do we connect all those different APIs, all those different banks together. How are developers going to access this underlying infrastructure? And over time, over the years, we started to pick different use cases and understand what were the capabilities of this whole new modern infrastructure that were created. And it's around 2019 that we really stumbled upon these payment use cases. We put out what we called back then our payments API, and that kind of like took off pretty rapidly. And so we started to compound users, compound volume of transactions, and so it kind of brought us to where we are today. That is trying to reimagine the world of payments and the financial systems through the lens of this new technology. And so to try to bring things a little bit alive, also my mom never understands what I do, so I'm trying to simplify for all of you here today. This is a little video, little demo. So imagine you are on a marketplace or on an e-commerce website, and you want to purchase like a good. You have different payment options. One of those is this one, instant bank payments. So you click on that, and then you select your bank. In this example, for instance, Revolut, which is a very valid partner. And then you get moved into the Revolut app, and you authorize the payment, you do Face ID, and the payment is done. No 16 digits, no second factor authentication on, I don't know, SMS on your phone. And for the merchant, that was a real-time transaction. So no chargebacks and a lot of other positive things. And this is really the value proposition that we are bringing to market. We know that we are very early in our journey, but our ambition is to really take on some of the largest monopolies in the world and reshape, reimagine some of the value proposition for all the different constituencies of this ecosystem. For merchant, being cheaper, faster, better, you're converting. For consumers, safer and a smoother journey. And even for banks now, it's becoming really a way to increase revenues, to be more relevant into the digital landscape, and compete against some of the largest companies in the space. I often get asked, okay, what's next? I think what's next is always like the next vertical, the next segment of the e-commerce that we are trying to go after. We are trying to build something that is extremely ubiquitous and horizontal, and so we are relentlessly going after country after country and segment after segment. So this year, big focus over e-commerce and also over international expansion. And thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Fran. Yeah, our next company is actually TACTO, so staying very close to B2B transactions from that, what's matter. Actually, we are going to speak about procurement and B2B transactions are a very important part of procurement. So procurement essentially is the function of sourcing and purchasing. So it can be anything literally in B2B, from buying toilet papers up to procuring industrial goods for your assembly line. And yeah, interestingly enough, it's an incredibly outdated vertical, and many companies, especially SMEs, completely lack the tooling and the data intelligence to understand what's going on in your supply chain, right? So we saw things happening like the war in Ukraine and the COVID disruption, and many companies have no clue what's going on in their supply chain, and they have no idea how to mitigate the risks that are associated with those things. So essentially, TACTO is kind of building an operating system for these SMEs. So in an AI-enabled platform, they give full transparency and overview, and they require the insights to mitigate those risks in their supply chains. And yeah, André couldn't make it in person today, so we're going to go and tune in virtually and listen to him. Yeah, there.
Hi, I'm André. I'm one of the co-founders of TACTO. And first of all, thank you so much to the whole Visionaries team for inviting me to Visionaries Unplugged today. Unfortunately, I can't be there in person, but I'm still super grateful to have the opportunity to present TACTO to you today. With TACTO, we build future-proof supply chains. So we work with the backbone of Europe, mid-sized industrials. Therefore, we fit quite well into the Visionaries portfolio. Because our customers manufacture the physical world. That means everything from washing detergents over food, snacks, to medical technology, lighting, and tunnel drilling machines. So in total, these companies, we're talking about over 50K mid-sized industrials in Europe here, not yet our customers, but hopefully soon. They make up over 4 trillion euro in GDP in Europe alone. And when you manufacture physical goods, so the average industrial, about 50% of all your revenues are spent procuring material. That means we're talking about 2 trillion euro in procurement volume in these mid-sized industrials in Europe. And in the past, these companies focused mainly on the 50% of internal value creations. That means, for example, optimizing your production process to produce more goods. But now the times have changed. So the supply chains got so much under pressure in the last years that the companies really need to do something there and get them under control. You had several disruptions such as wars, pandemic, and so on, that put them under pressure. You have now a lot of regulations such as the European Supply Chain Act, and you of course have sustainability. So these companies really need to look at how they procure these tens of thousands materials with thousands of suppliers from thousands of suppliers all over the world to optimize this 50% of external value creation. And that's what we do with TACTO. We help our customers build future-proof supply chains. For us, that means digital, efficient, and sustainably. That means we help them to digitally procure material at optimal conditions. We help them to efficiently master regulation without effort. And when we can be sure of one thing, that is that there will be more regulation in the European Union. So we help them with that. And of course, we help them to sustainably reduce risks and emissions. So our system, TACTO, is the one face to the supplier for these companies. So all supplier workforce, all supplier data is in our system, and we help them to optimize their supply chains. How does that look like? I will show you in a short demo. Here you see an individual supplier profile in TACTO. You have all necessary information in place, such as all contracts, all open requests, RFX processes, contacts, and of course a timeline of all your historic activities, emails, tasks, and so on. I think you get the concept. But you can also dig deep down into your article base. So you see all the articles the supplier is delivering, the price points, and you get a very transparent overview about the price development. So how different cost components are developing, for example, like energy, raw materials, and so on. Because right now it's completely intransparent to you. For example, when the supplier requests a price increase, you don't have the basis to really react to that. Now you can negotiate here with like a transparent overview, and you can maybe save €1, which is €1 in profit for these companies. But you can also move away from the individual supplier profile more towards looking at your whole supply chain and supplier base. So this is, for example, the module we developed for the European Supply Chain Act, and here you can assess all the risks that you have in your supply chain. So with that, you can efficiently comply to the regulation, but also you can look at ecological risks. So, for example, huge CO2 risks that you have in your supply chain, and can initiate measures based on that and transform your supplier base sustainably. So with that, I think you got a short glimpse of what we're doing and how we help our customers build future-proof supply chains. So we really want to work with the European backbone, all these industrials, to transform their supply chains and help them procure material at optimal conditions with our software. And thereby, we want to be the leading procurement solution for mid-cap industrials in Europe, probably one of the largest untapped markets. So if you want to be part of that journey, help us build future-proof supply chains, let's talk. And I wish you a great event. Bye-bye.
Excellent. Thank you so much, André. Next up is actually Sven, founder of SECJUR, and we are going from procurement to compliance. And yeah, essentially the problem with compliance is that it's incredibly tedious, complex, and requires a lot of manual labor and yeah, fees spent on consultants. And essentially that's where SECJUR comes in, because they are building a platform that completely automates anything required around compliance and anything associated with data privacy and information security, and therefore really save a lot of resources and time for the businesses that better be doing their own core business. So yeah, handing over to Sven.
Hello, everyone. Talking about compliance is actually like asking people how much they enjoy their dentist appointment. Like, you have to do it, there's a necessity to do it, but if you take longer, the pain gets even worse. So you're doing it, but involuntarily. So every role in a company that's exposed to compliance in the first place always also lacks the capacity to execute compliance. So, and that makes them vulnerable to a very old business model. And that business model is, if you're paid by the hour, take your time. So everyone grinning right now, I know you guys, you are legal advisors or IT advisors because you make a living out of that. But hold short a moment, because the issue on compliance is you have to do 80% of the work up front to get the first 20% of results. And only the very last steps of the 20% of work gives you actually the 80% of results. Because compliance frameworks always work the same way. You have to analyze the company first, then you're generating the data points and content, then you're analyzing that content, and at the very end you can design risk models, monitoring, real-time suggestions. And that is actually the issue in the end. We at SECJUR, we turn that thing around. So we are paid by the results, so we have to cut out the hours and replace them with automation. This automation actually enables the client to get quicker to the results in their compliance spaces. So the compliance spaces for us are the 4 major topics any company is facing at the moment. So we are covering data protection, information security, whistleblowing, and anti-money laundering. So in each of these spaces, our clients can start to either in information security get a certification they need for new business that has to be attracted. They are going to a European market, they have to be GDPR compliant. And all these spaces we cover on the very same platform. So that SaaS platform we call the Digital Compliance Office. So a company can subscribe to one module, for example, data protection, and they start to execute that compliance. We go that far that even the authorities accept us as the appointed data protection officer, even though we are covering it with the platform. When the company has finished being compliant with data protection, they can move on in their journey because we know after that to generate new business, they have to get an ISO certification. So they take over all the efforts and all the insights on the platform by a click. They add the new module, and they can start like their ISO certification or SOC 2, which helps them to generate new business. If you are an SME company that's 20 years old with legacy, we automate the audits, so you can start right away. If you are a scale-up or a grow-up, you can connect your tech stack and integrations, and we generate every document, the policies, and everything we need out of that. And you save most of the time that usually you get advisory upon. And that's the whole purpose of the platform. So it's the speed and the accuracy that we are doing with that. We go even further. So you can do anti-money laundering, whistleblowing, and we also cover the supply chains of our customers. So with the supply chain monitoring, this doesn't hold back just to a monitor for child labor or in-compliant supply chain. We also roll out on the suppliers of a company the other modules. So you can see if your suppliers are GDPR compliant, if their ISO certification is on track. So you can monitor down your supply chain, and you can use the platform to report up to your tier 1 customer you're having. Even further, this can also be used from PEs to monitor their portfolio and from enterprises to monitor all the subsidiaries they have to. So you can imagine if you're an enterprise, you have 20 subsidiaries, you can monitor all the information security, their status, the trainings, and the GDPR of all your subsidiaries. So this is also the space we are going to, and we are doing this for 5 years now. So we started in 2018, which was like the peak point of GDPR by coincidence, and this is how we started. And from that journey, we took some learnings by going there. And the main learnings I would show you, that we took over the last couple of years is, first of all, the expert dilemma. So it's necessary for us to have experts in our company because they generate the content. But experts tend to build silo solutions and expert solutions, not customer-friendly solutions. Everyone who is using our platform can roll it out in the company and doesn't need experts. So we had to train all our experts to think like product people and engineers and always focus on the end result, what they have to use. We are 5 years in business. The next learning was it's a marathon, so everyone in the company has to get used to that the company is changing every 12 months. The third item is like a very, very mean truth, because if you have a performance culture, the new work culture doesn't fit to it to that extent. So if you're scaling up and all your employees are working remotely, you have such an extensive way of additional work to onboard them when you just roll it out of the box. The fourth item is not just in compliance, that the decision makers who's buying the platform is not necessarily the users. So you always have to separate from the users and from the procurement officer, for example, and those actually need storytelling. They need to understand on a high level what's the benefit from the platform they are procuring, and that doesn't just include features or very nitty-gritty stuff. And the fifth and large is actually the reason why I'm sitting here. So we are 4 co-founders on the company. I joined in later. I joined in 2.5 years ago. And we are always very determined on our founders team that we use our profiles efficiently for the roles we have to execute at the moment. So I started in the company as the CTO. And now I'm the CEO taking over that role. And everyone from the leadership team, we know our psychological profiles. We know what our flaws in communication are, and we really let the company run over our egos. And that was actually the key, how to get 2 lawyers, a sales guy, and an IT guy run a company without running mad all the time. So thank you.
Thank you, Sven. And finally, please welcome Phil from YOKOY. And we're going to talk about expense management. Very similarly to compliance, it can get very tedious, complex, costly, clunky, and really time and resource intensive. And essentially what you can also imagine is that the higher you go up market, the more legacy stack you also need to deal with, and integration with that is incredibly difficult. And essentially, YOKOY is a company that builds especially that orchestration solution, deeply integrating with that legacy stack, and therefore automating the massive part of that expense management, and therefore aiming to become the ultimate single-layer financial operation system for SMEs. And really excited to be backers of the company, and handing over to Phil.
Thank you very much. Yeah, most people don't get excited when they hear expense management, because they just know those, those receipts that you need to collect and then bring to your finance team or to your manager. And what a lot of people don't know is that the process actually just starts when an employee submits such a receipt. There's a lot that's actually following after that. And when you look at what it costs to just process one single invoice or one single receipt, it's $60 just processing cost for a mid-sized or bigger organization. And that's just, as Bogdan said as well, such a receipt needs to get somehow into the computer. It needs to get checked against policies. It needs to get through certain approval flows that differ based on location, based on rank. It also needs to find its way somehow into the finance department, where VAT is extracted. It needs to get archived. It needs to get booked. There's a whole lot of things that need to happen just with one single, somewhat boring receipt. And that's why we have leveraged artificial intelligence for exactly that use case with YOKOY. So we're not doing expense management only. We have combined the full spend management spectrum, which is expense management, invoice processing, and card payments, because all of them, it's all accounts payable. I'm an accountant, so from an accounting side, it flows into the finance tool in basically pretty much the same booking order. And for Yokoy, we are one platform. I put all the buzzwords in here that I could, all in one. We are end-to-end, and we have AI as well. So investors love that. No, it's truly, we want to have one single platform. We want to break down the silos of expense management, invoice processing, and card payment, because why should anyone in an organization care whether they're approving an expense, an invoice, or a card payment? It doesn't. They should have one app. It should be one platform, because you want to have all your cost data in one single platform, knowing exactly how your costs, how your expenses are flowing. And also you want to maintain as few systems as possible. So connecting Yokoy typically to an SAP or to an Oracle, where all the booking, archiving, payout, and all of that at the end happens. Artificial intelligence is important for us because if you look at how stuff like expenses and invoices were processed in the past, it was mainly by either rule-based engines or it was by humans looking at those receipts. And imagine if you have to look and type those receipts in every single day or look for outliers, you do soon realize that with artificial intelligence you get quite an advantage, because you get the data needed. There's actually 300 data points we can extract from one single receipt. And based on that, we can already do a lot in order for the approval flow to get to a minimum. The goal is always, out of 100 expenses or invoices, that only 1 or 2 actually need a physical, a human to look at. These are the outliers, the exceptions, but all the others, all the ones that are fully compliant, low risk profile, within policy, or a supplier you have already paid, you want them to be processed through fully automatically from the receipt, from the invoice, from the payment, all the way to the correct booking at the end in your Oracle, SAP, whatever it is. So that's what we're up to at Yokoy. We are specialized in mid-sized organizations. We don't do smaller organizations because our AI core, or our AI is core to what we're doing. We need certain data. We have a research lab back in Zurich, where our headquarters is, Switzerland, where in our research lab we only research on making the algorithms better, because every single customer of ours gets its own AI model, which learns on their data and gets better over time. So we want to make expense management, invoice management, and card payments not only better, faster, and cheaper. We really want to make sure that we're building the software of the future and our customers get the best tool possible, streamlined in one platform, not only now, but also in the future. So if you know anyone, please hit me up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Phil. And with that, we would like to wrap up our session. Thank you so much for our portfolio founders for sharing their stories. And I think if you look at one big overarching theme is that, and why we love B2B software so much actually, is that we believe that in the value chain, if you look at it, there is no economic reason for anything not to be digitized in the coming decades if you can streamline it and automate it and make it more efficient. And all the companies that we are working with are exactly going into that direction. So incredibly happy to be able to work with them. And yeah, with that, we will wrap this session up and we will be back soon. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you.